The General Hospital recap for Friday, August 29th, shows that Britt Westbourne fled after discovering imprisoned Jocelyn Jackson Vaughn. Carly Spencer also threatened Drew Kane's life, thus this is how the drama unfolded. Britt awoke with a hangover at the Five Poppies Resort, where she placed Jason Morgan's burner phone in a decorative box before leaving her room. Britt became skeptical of Pascal's actions, but he urged her to return to work and stomped off. Instead of working, Britt thought up an excuse for Tomas to vacate the entrance he was guarding. While Tomas was in the lab, Britt opened the door with her keycard and was surprised to see Jocelyn and Vaughn held prisoner. Jocelyn inquired if Britt might help them and appeared optimistic, but Britt recovered from the shock, closed the door, and scampered away. Back in Port Charles, Harrison Chase met Judge Eva Heron ahead of the forthcoming visitation hearing and practically recommended Willow Tate as a terrific mother. Chase's discussion of the subject with Judge Heron was inappropriate, but she heard him out. Chase was convinced that Judge Heron would be fair whenever Willow and Michael Corinthos returned to court. Afterward, Judge Heron phoned Jen Sidwell because she was anxious about Chase asking questions and wanted to make sure she was safe. Willow updated Elizabeth Baldwin on her choice to take Drew back because he represented her greatest opportunity of reuniting with her children. Liz explained why Willow shouldn't do this, but Willow believed it was her only option. Meanwhile, Portia Robinson met up with Isaiah Gannon in her office. Although Portia had no remorse once they were done, she realized that she was his boss and wanted to keep things quiet. When Trina came, Isaiah departed, leaving her alone to speak with Portia. Trina sought explanations concerning the tension between Portia and Curtis Ashford, so Portia revealed the full horrible Drew blackmail narrative. Outside Drew's office, Kai Taylor listened in on Drew and Curtis' argument. It opened Kai's eyes to how evil Drew was when he went for Stella Henry to destroy Curtis. After Curtis left, Kai approached Drew, prompting Drew to resume his good guy persona. When Kai was alone in Drew's office, he called to check on the Stella inquiry and appeared disgusted that Drew had launched it. When Trina came, Kai delivered a speech on how he was wrong to give Drew the benefit of the doubt. Trina felt relieved now that Kai understood Drew was a manipulative monster. She needed Kai's assistance. Stella was anxious that vindictive Curtis might exacerbate the situation at the police station, so she encouraged Jordan Ashford to speak with him. Despite Jordan's later attempts, Curtis seems determined to take a bold stand against Drew. Carly then spoke with Rocco Falconeri and Danny Morgan in her office. This year's pool season was coming to an end, but Carly intended to rehire Danny and Rocco the following season. There was considerable conversation concerning Drew's restraining orders. Danny decided it was best for his father to stay away a little longer because he was a minor and needed Jason Morgan around to receive his formal papers. Danny wanted to visit Scout Quartermain again, but Carly said it was a horrible idea. Drew eventually arrived and berated the youngsters before they left. Danny and Rocco ended out by the docks because they intended to take the speedboat out, but they were concerned when they noticed a body floating close. The unusual blouse Judge Heron was wearing earlier indicated that she was face down in the water. Back with Drew, he informed Carly about the judge bribery case and urged her to persuade Michael Corinthos to accept his offer. Drew said that it was Carly and Michael's final chance to be in Wiley and Amelia Corinthos' lives. Drew's treatment of Stella paled in comparison to what he would do to Michael if he refused to play ball. If Drew harmed Michael or the rest of Carly's family, she swore to murder him herself. Drew looked smug when Elizabeth arrived just in time to overhear Carly threaten Drew's life. The General Hospital recap for Friday, August 29th reveals that Elizabeth Weber overhears Carly Spencer threaten Drew Kane. Britt Westbourne holds Jocelyn Jackson Vaughn imprisoned, and a body is discovered in the water. Chase meets Judge Heron at Bobby's while getting a coffee at Bobby's. Harrison Chase met Judge Eva Heron and took the opportunity to speak for Willow Tate. General Hospital recap August 29th, Carly's deadly threat, Britt's hostage twist, and body found in harbor. Judge Heron highlighted some potential reasons that a judge would evaluate in a case like Willow's. Chase expressed confidence that his friend would be given a fair hearing because of the judge's recognized reputation for impartiality. As soon as Chase left the restaurant, Judge Heron called to inform the other party that a detective was questioning about the Corinthos case. She wanted to make sure her interests were safeguarded, and they had her back. Willow surprised Elizabeth with her decision. Willow announced that she had reconnected with Drew and that he would assist her in obtaining custody of her children. Liz tried to argue with her friend, but her words fell on deaf ears. Willow insisted that she needed more than just character references from her co-workers and immaculate attendance at her visitation hearing. Willow explained that she felt she had no other options and hesitated when Liz asked if she still had feelings for Drew. Yes. No. It doesn't matter, Willow insisted, convinced that regaining her children was all that actually mattered. General Hospital recap: August 29th, Carly's deadly threat, Britt's hostage twist, body found in harbor with stars in her eyes. Willow stated that Drew's decision to prevent her from speaking with Michael Corinthos in Germany revealed his vast influence and demonstrated that he always gets his way. However, Elizabeth claimed that this behavior was unpleasant and a sort of bribery. She warned Willow that she was jeopardizing her ethics, but Willow argued that she had removed her blinders and fully comprehended her situation with Drew. What mother wouldn't be willing to exchange her soul for her children? She remarked, thus concluding the conversation by stating that Drew was her best option. Willow later spoke with Chase, but before she could reveal her important decision, he quickly shared that he had seen Judge Heron at Bobby's and had wonderful news for her. Doctors Without Boundaries: Portia and Isaiah have sex in her office after a passionate kiss. Portia and Isaiah Gannon made love on the couch in her office. Afterwards, Isaiah picked up the wedding photo of Portia and Curtis Ashford from the floor and brought it to her, who promptly placed it on her desk. After they both admitted that their meeting was unforeseen, Portia took her wedding band off the floor, and Isaiah asked if she had any regrets. In an awkward moment, Portia reminded Dr. Gannon that she was his boss, and they shouldn't have been intimate in her office. This occurred just moments before Trina Robinson walked in. General Hospital recap: August 29th, Carly's deadly threat, Britt's hostage twist, body found in harbor. Portia revealed Drew's blackmail to Trina after Isaiah found a reason to leave. Trina, who was upset about her parents' conflict and Aunt Stella Henry's arrest, had some questions. She insisted that her mother explain what had caused the problem with Drew. Finally, Portia revealed that Drew was blackmailing them with evidence that she had tampered with Heather Weber's blood tests in order to keep the serial killer behind bars and away from Trina. With tears in her eyes, Portia explained to her daughter how her hidden realities had strained her relationship with Curtis. By the time they decided to confront Drew together, their marriage was already in trouble. They embraced as Portia reminded her that no matter what happened, they would always love her. Later, Isaiah returned to Portia's office to check how she was doing, and she admitted to having confided in Trina. He took her hand and apologized for complicating her day. Portia stated that he was not to blame, stating that her marriage was already beyond repair long before Isaiah entered her life. Everything, my marriage, Trina, Stella, all of it, can be attributed to Drew Kane, she moaned. The blackmail had been going on for a long time, before Isaiah arrived in Port Charles. Kai's eyes are open to what and who Drew is as Curtis questioned Drew about informing the authorities about Aunt Stella. Kai Taylor overheard the entire conversation from the corridor outside the congressman's office. As a result, he developed a different perspective on his master. The two men's dispute grew, and Curtis eventually announced that he would rather see Drew dead than visit Aunt Stella in jail. He then walked out quietly. When Kai entered Drew's office, she noticed Curtis appeared concerned. Drew downplayed it as concern for Stella, assuring her that he would do everything he could to help her. When Kai noted that Stella had been quite helpful during his recovery from surgery, Drew stated that he was unable to intervene if Stella had committed insurance fraud. Shifting the discussion, Drew asked Kai if he had found Carly, to which he replied that she was expected to remain in her office at the Metro Court until the end of the day. Drew suggested they call it a night, but Kai chose to stay in the office to finish some research, earning him accolades from the congressman for his dedication. Of course. Kai responded, "You can always rely on me." After being left alone, Kai called the fraud section to inquire about the Stella Henry investigation status. Getting the reaction he expected, or perhaps didn't, Kai indicated that the congressman would be delighted to discover they were acting on his request, and was quite frustrated when the call ended. Kai admits to Trina that he regrets not believing Drew is a monster. Later, a worked-up Trina walked up to meet Drew, planning to confront him about his blackmail of her mother. Kai told her to save her energy, admitting that Drew had Stella jailed just to spite Curtis. "And how does that make you feel?" Trina inquired. "I feel foolish for not heeding your advice sooner," Kai said. He said that he had now realized Drew as the corrupt monster he is and promised to do whatever it takes to make up with the Ashford family. "That's great," Trina said, "because I really need your help right now." Danny Morgan and Rocco Falconeri meet with Carly after ending their summer employment as pool attendants. Carly offers them a lifeguard job for next summer. She urged the lads to return to the hotel next summer, this time as lifeguards. Before they left, Carly asked Danny if he had heard from Jason Morgan. Danny stated that his father was on his way home, but it may be best for him to stay away. He said that it was due to the restraining order Drew had issued against Scout Kane's family. Because Danny is still a juvenile, he stressed that the restraining order had to be served on his legal guardian. Carly told the boys not to give Drew any more ammunition. Danny stressed that as long as Jason was away, he could continue to visit his sister, but Carly advised the boys not to give Drew any more leverage. Drew stormed into Carly's office, as if he had received a call. When Danny asked about the restraining order against Rocco, Drew smugly replied that he wasn't taking any chances because the guys frequently hung out together. He then stated that Danny was Scout's half-brother, and that Rocco had no link to her at all. To keep the incident from escalating, Carly stepped in, urging Drew to back off and leading Rocco and Danny out of her office. Carly blasts Drew as Carly closed the office door behind them. She vented her rage at Drew for removing Danny and Rocco from Scout. This was especially important during her time of grief for Sam McCall. Drew advised that Carly focus on Michael rather than Danny and Rocco. He then disclosed that an inquiry had discovered that Judge Heron had accepted a $1 million bribe shortly before deciding in Michael's favor. Carly, on the other hand, remained calm and denied Drew's request that she persuade Michael to accept his offer and sign over custody to Willow. When Carly attempted to expel Drew from her office, he smugly reminded her that he was the one behind Stella's legal difficulties. And it was only a taste of what he could do to Michael if she didn't cooperate. Carly went full mama bear and faced Drew with her own warning: "If you mess with Michael, you mess with my family, and I will take you down myself," she fumed. As Drew inclined his head in response to Carly's words, something in the room caught his eye, and he looked up to see Elizabeth at the entrance. Drew felt happy knowing he had a witness to Carly's threat, while Carly winced at the thought of what Elizabeth could have heard. Jordan Ashford supported Stella in the PCPD interrogation room as she awaited her arraignment. Stella expressed anxiety that if Drew continued to agitate Curtis, her nephew would lose control and do something he would later regret. She requested Jordan to help calm Curtis down after his altercation with Drew. Curtis arrived at the police station just as Stella and Jordan returned from their arraignment. Alexis Davis had persuaded the judge to grant Stella bail. Jordan went to speak with Curtis, who interrupted her. Jordan cautioned Curtis not to let Drew compromise him any further, but Curtis insisted that it was already too late, and he stormed out of the room. Danny and Rocco discover a body in the harbor after leaving the Metro Court. Danny and Rocco made their way to the docks to board Jason's motorboat. Danny was excited to see Scout, but Rocco convinced him that they should keep their distance. While Danny was joking about vandalizing Drew's house later that evening, Rocco noticed something peculiar in the water. The supposedly lifeless body of Judge Heron was sliding face down. The guys were frightened when they realized there was a body floating in the water. Pascal chastises Britt across the ocean at the Five Poppies. Britt awakened with a pounding headache and an almost empty pitcher of margarita on her nightstand, cursing Jason's name. Her headache worsened when Pascal called to reprimand her for not being in the lab yet. After slamming the phone down, she started to leave her room, but she snatched the burner phone Jason had given her at the last minute. "Get over yourself. It's just a phone, not a symbol of his affection, Britt said as she pushed the phone into a colorful box. Britt had already told Jason that she wanted him to leave Dalmatia, and that's when he handed her the phone. He offered to rescue her from the resort, but she declined. Britt discovers Joss and Vaughn captive but releases them. Upon entering the lab building, Britt noticed Pascal and his helper, Tomas Dujmovic, chatting outside one of the rooms. Pascal insisted she concentrate on her research. Later, when Britt noticed Tomas alone, standing watch in front of another door, she swiftly devised an excuse to entice him away from his station. With her keycard in hand, Britt entered the room only to be surprised to see Jocelyn and Vaughn chained and helpless inside. When Joss begged Britt to help them escape, she turned and left the room and the entire lab complex. Share your opinions in the comments area below. Keep watching ABC soap operas to find out what happens next. Britt was pacing restlessly in the dimly lighted corridor outside the General Hospital lab, her heart beating against her ribs and her thoughts racing faster than she could manage. She had promised herself she wouldn't get involved, that she wouldn't let her curiosity lead her into another quagmire from which she couldn't get out, but something she overheard earlier had drawn her deeper into this twisted web. Jocelyn's name came up. Vaughn's too. And every time Vaughn's name was mentioned, chaos ensued. Britt knew better than anybody how quickly Port Charles' secrets could turn into disasters, and the more she tried to ignore it, the more her instincts warned her something dangerous was about to happen. Her fears were confirmed as she turned the corner and almost collided with Jocelyn, who was clutching Vaughn's arm as if her life depended on it. Jocelyn's wide, tear-streaked eyes revealed all before she said anything. Britt hesitated for a moment, trying to grasp the scene before her. Vaughn appeared stiff and guarded, as if he had anticipated the confrontation. The stillness between them was piercing enough to cut through the humid hospital air, and Britt realized she had walked into something she couldn't undo. "Britt," Jocelyn murmured, her voice quivering, "you can't tell anyone about this." Her tone was imploring, but Britt could see she was hiding more than fear, guilt. Vaughn's fingers tightened slightly around Jocelyn's wrist, not rough, but firm enough to indicate control. Britt's gaze shifted between them, her instincts on high alert. "What the hell's happening on here?" she urged, her voice low and calm. "Why are you looking like you've seen a ghost, Joss?" Vaughn's jaw clenched, and his gaze fixed on Britt with unsettling intensity. "Britt, stay out of this. You have no idea what's going on, and it's best that you don't." This further fueled her curiosity. Britt had been burnt before by remaining silent when she should have spoken up, and she wasn't going to let history repeat itself, especially with Jocelyn involved. "I swear, if you're dragging her into something dangerous, it's not what you think." Jocelyn abruptly stopped, but the trembling in her voice betrayed her. Britt moved closer, her voice softening slightly. "Then tell me what it is." Before Jocelyn could respond, rapid footsteps echoed down the corridor. Carly appeared, domineering as always, but her demeanor was different this time. Panic. Determination. A rage boiling beneath the surface that Britt had only witnessed a few times before, and each time it resulted in someone being injured. Carly's gaze caught on Vaughn instantaneously, and she moved so quickly that Britt was shocked. "Get your hands off my daughter," she demanded, her voice low and menacing. Vaughn let go quickly, bringing his palms up defensively, but Carly continued to advance on him. "If you think for 1 second you're going to drag Jocelyn into whatever shady garbage you've got going on, think again." "Carly, stop," Jocelyn tried to interject, but Carly's focus was unwavering. "You don't get it, Joss," Carly replied, still glaring at Vaughn. "Do guys like him? They will use you, destroy you, and then leave you to pick up the pieces. I'm not going to let that happen." Vaughn finally responded, his voice firm. "It's not about me, Carly. It's about Drew." The name echoed down the corridor like an explosion. Britt's breath caught, and Carly paused for a half-second before regaining her composure. Drew's name in relation to Vaughn and Jocelyn was the last thing she expected to hear, and it changed the entire atmosphere in the room. "What the hell are you talking about?" Carly demanded, her tone sharper now, fueled by equal parts rage and perplexity. Vaughn paused, his eyes flickering to Jocelyn, quietly requesting permission. However, Jocelyn shook her head slightly, silently pleading him not to say anything. Carly became increasingly suspicious as a result of her hesitancy, and she stepped forward until she was almost nose to nose with Vaughn. "Talk. Now." Britt squirmed uncomfortably, her instincts telling her that this was more than simply Jocelyn slipping around or Vaughn being careless. There was a bigger secret here, one directly related to Drew, and Carly was on the verge of detonating. Finally, Vaughn mumbled, "Drew has been lying to you. To everyone." Jocelyn winced as if she had been physically struck, and Britt's stomach turned. Carly, on the other hand, stopped for a time, her jaw tightening as the words hit home. Then she laughed coldly, as if there was no humor in it. "You better start explaining before I lose what little patience I have left." Vaughn's tone sharpened. "What is Drew's deal with you? It's not as you think. He works with people who don't really care what happens to you, Joss, or anybody else. You believe you are safe, Carly, but you are not. None of you are." The corridor fell silent, save for the faint hum of fluorescent lights above them. Britt's mind was racing, attempting to connect the dots, but it was Carly's reply that kept everyone guessing. She did not yell. She did not cry. Instead, she took a hesitant step back, her breathing unsteady, as if deciding whether to erupt or walk away. Then her voice fell, quiet and frigid, the kind of tone that usually signals tragedy. "If Drew thinks he can put my family at risk," she muttered, "he's dead wrong." Britt felt a shiver run up her spine. She had seen Carly get angry before, but this was different. This was not about injured sentiments or betrayal, it was primitive, protecting wrath. "Carly," Britt cautioned, "do not do anything you will regret. Whatever Drew is up to, we need to consider this through," but Carly wheeled on her, her eyes burning. "No, Britt. Thinking is what led us here. Drew has been messing with us as we've been sitting about trying to sort things out. If Vaughn is telling the truth, he has put Jocelyn in risk. My daughter. That is not something I forgive. Ever." Jocelyn clutched for her mother's arm, her voice quivering. "Mom. Please. You do not comprehend. Drew is not the enemy." "Oh really?" Carly barked, swinging back to face her. "Then explain why Vaughn claims he is lying. Explain why you appear to be about to collapse right here in the middle of the hospital. If there's anything you're hiding, Jocelyn, you better start talking now before I do something none of us can undo." Jocelyn paused, her lips shaking and tears welling up in her eyes. Vaughn came closer to her, unknowingly protecting her, which fueled Carly's rage. "This isn't about Drew hurting anyone," Jocelyn said quietly. "It is about what he is safeguarding." Britt grimaced. "He's in over his head. Who are you protecting from?" Jocelyn hesitated again, but Vaughn responded for her. "From those who refuse to forgive faults. People who make Sonny Corinthos seem like a saint. Drew has been holding secrets because he believes it is the only way to keep everyone alive." That sent another wave of silence across the hallway, this time heavier, as if the walls were absorbing the weight of Vaughn's words. Carly clenched her fists, and her knuckles turned white. "You expect me to believe Drew has been lying to me for weeks because he wants to protect us?" she inquired, her tone tight and clipped. "You think I'll just accept that? No. If he's pulled my daughter into this, if he's used her as a pawn in some twisted game, I promise to God, Vaughn, he'll regret ever crossing me." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, but her resolve remained unwavering. Britt could see it now. Carly wasn't lying. She meant every word, and if Drew didn't start explaining himself soon, things were going to get out of hand faster than anyone could control. Just before Britt was ready to intercede again, her phone vibrated in her pocket. A quick peek at the screen made her blood run cold. "Tell Carly to back off, or Jocelyn gets hurt." Her breath caught, and the buzzing hospital faded into static in her ears. Whoever delivered that message was aware of what was going on at the time, implying that someone was keeping an eye on them, possibly inside the hospital. Britt shoved the phone back into her pocket, preferring not to show it to Carly for the time being. If Carly saw that message, she would be unable to control her wrath and halt the eventual explosion. However, Britt was also aware that keeping it a secret may be equally harmful. And somewhere deep inside the hospital, Drew walked right into a trap he had no idea was waiting for him. Carly's warning may not have been idle, but if she wasn't careful, she'd end up placing everyone she cared about in even more risk. Carly ran out of the corridor, her heels thumping against the hospital floor, her rage propelling her forward like a tidal wave she couldn't stop. She didn't wait for Jocelyn to come up or Britt to call her name. She needed air, space, and, most importantly, answers. Every step seemed heavier than the last, her heart pounding with memories of Drew, his calm explanations, kind reassurances, and conviction that he was protecting her. "I am protecting her." The words were harsh now, like poison in the back of her throat. If Drew had lied to her, it wasn't simply treachery. It was wartime. Jocelyn hurried after her, Vaughn close behind, and by the time they arrived at the elevator, they were both out of breath. But Carly did not stop. She pounded the down button so hard that it nearly shattered beneath her thumb, her breaths raspy with rage. "Mom, you should listen to me." Jocelyn sobbed and grabbed Carly's arm, but Carly brushed her off without looking back. "No, Jocelyn. I've heard enough," Carly snarled, her voice as cutting as glass. "I believed Drew when he said he was being honest with me. I listened to you every time you said you were secure. And now I find you hiding in a hospital hallway with Vaughn, someone I hardly know, and I'm meant to believe this is unrelated? Not anymore." Jocelyn's lip quiver, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "If you go after Drew right now, you'll make everything worse." Carly whirled on her, her eyes blazing with a mother's primitive rage. "Worse? Do you hear yourself? Someone has their hooks in Drew, and they're using him to reach us. To you. If I don't stop this right now, Joss, it will continue until someone dies." Vaughn stepped forward, sandwiching himself between Carly and Jocelyn. "Listen, Carly. She's correct. You don't know the whole story. If you rush into this without knowing what Drew is up against, you could end up putting Jocelyn in much more risk than she already is." Carly was stunned for a few seconds. Her fists clenched at her sides, but she pushed herself to meet Vaughn's stare. "Then you should start talking. Now." But Vaughn paused. Carly saw his silence as more powerful than any explanation. "You're protecting him," she said, her voice calm but full of fury. "Why?" "Because," Vaughn said last, his voice low and steady, "if Drew goes down, we all go down." The elevator rang, but no one moved. The words lingered between them, heavy and oppressive, turning Carly's rage into something darker, a cold, biting knowledge that whatever Drew was up to, it was far more than any of them recognized. Finally, Carly went into the elevator and turned to face them. "Stay here. Both of you. Do not follow me." The doors slid shut before Jocelyn could object. Drew was pacing in his Aurora Media office while his phone continued to vibrate on his desk. He hadn't answered a single call in the past 30 minutes, not from Carly, Sam, or anybody else. Every second wasted brought him closer to danger, and the walls were closing in quickly. The documents Vaughn had given him earlier that morning were sprawled across his desk, their contents sufficient to destroy everything he had worked for. Everything was there: names, dates, and coded transactions. Evidence linking Aurora's lawful operations to something considerably more dangerous: money laundering for a group Drew should never have associated himself in. He believed he had more time to rectify things and keep Carly and the kids safe from the consequences, but Vaughn's earlier message was obvious. They know. And they're moving quickly. Carly's angry voice at his door made his stomach drop. Open the door, Drew. He stopped for a half-second, considering whether to stall, but Carly did not wait for his approval. The door sprang open, and there she was, flushed, shaking, and emitting a maelstrom he couldn't possibly manage. You lied to me, she spat as she entered his office. All this time, you looked me in the eye and swore I could trust you. Drew's shoulders tightened. Carly, you need to calm down. Don't you dare tell me to calm down, she yelled, her voice piercing through steel. Vaughn told me everything.